Moses and the Burning Tree Bible Story. Introduction. The story of Moses and the burning tree is one of the most famous and important stories in the Bible. It is the story of how God called Moses to lead the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt and into the Promised Land. The story begins with Moses tending his father-in-law's sheep in the desert. One day, Moses sees a bush that is on fire, but not being consumed. As he gets closer to the bush, he hears a voice calling to him. The voice tells Moses that it is God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God tells Moses that he has seen the suffering of the Israelites in Egypt, and he has chosen Moses to lead them out of slavery and into the Promised Land. Moses is afraid and hesitant at first. He tells God that he is not qualified to be a leader, and he asks God to send someone else. But God assures Moses that he will be with him every step of the way. Subtitles. God calls Moses' hesitation, God's assurance. Moses' mission, detailed descriptions. God calls Moses. When Moses hears God's voice from the burning bush, he is afraid and falls to the ground. God tells Moses to take off his sandals because he is standing on holy ground. God then tells Moses that he has seen the suffering of the Israelites in Egypt, and he has chosen Moses to lead them out of slavery and into the Promised Land. God says, I have come to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land to a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. Exodus 3:8. Moses' hesitation. Moses is afraid and hesitant at first. He tells God that he is not qualified to be a leader. He says, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? Exodus 3:11. Moses also tells God that the Israelites will not believe him. He says, If I go to the Israelites and say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, What is his name? What shall I say to them? Exodus 3:13. God's assurance. God assures Moses that he will be with him every step of the way. God says, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. Exodus 3:14. God also gives Moses a sign to prove that he is sending him. God says, When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. Exodus 3:12. Moses' mission. Moses reluctantly agrees to go to Pharaoh and demand that he let the Israelites go. Moses returns to Egypt and leads the Israelites out of slavery. After many years of wandering in the desert, the Israelites finally reach the Promised Land. Bullet points. Moses is tending his father-in-law's sheep in the desert when he sees a burning bush. God speaks to Moses from the burning bush and calls him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Moses is afraid and hesitant at first, but God assures him that he will be with him every step of the way. Moses reluctantly agrees to go to Pharaoh and demand that he let the Israelites go. Moses leads the Israelites out of Egypt and into the Promised Land. Conclusion. The story of Moses and the burning tree is a powerful story of God's love and faithfulness. It is also a story of courage and obedience. Moses was afraid and hesitant when God called him, but he obeyed God's command anyway. As a result, God used Moses to deliver the Israelites from slavery and lead them to the Promised Land. Lessons from the story. The story of Moses and the burning tree teaches us a number of important lessons. First, it teaches us that God is always with us, even in our darkest moments. Second, it teaches us that God has a plan for our lives, even if we don't understand it. Third, it teaches us that we should obey God, even when it is difficult. Reflection. The story of Moses and the burning tree is a reminder that God is always with us, even when we don't feel like it. God has a plan for our lives, and He will equip us with everything we need to accomplish His will. We should never be afraid to obey God's leading, even when it is difficult.